Thanks very much for the opportunity to come and give our perspective on what the consumer is saying around smart meters. For anybody who doesn't know us, we're the independent organisation set up to communicate the smart meter rollout to the public and to make sure they're informed of what smart meters do and how they can benefit from the technology. And much of my presentation doesn't talk about the here and now, it actually talks about the future and what the consumer wants from the future, what the consumer attitudes are towards future services and products. But a quick overview. We know there's many millions of smart meters already operating, and I'm sure you've already heard that day by day the number of smart meters going in is increasing, which is really, really encouraging. But we know that the favourability towards the technology is great. So we know that about 71% of people who have a smart meter would recommend them to others, and that's family, friends, colleagues, etc. And that's really encouraging for a new piece of technology, something that's very, very new. And it's also quite important to a lot of people in terms of the money that they're spending on energy per year. We know that there's quite a lot of engagement with the in-home display. About 3/4 of people who have a smart meter and still have the IHD somewhere nearby are engaging with the IHD quite regularly. That's 2 or 3 times a month, and that's them checking, or at least 2 or 3 times a month, and that's them checking their current usage for gas and electricity. And we know that over 80% of people who have a smart meter are taking at least one action to reduce their energy consumption. Now, that could be something quite basic, such as myself turning off lights or turning the thermostat down 1 degree, or it could be something a bit more fundamental, whereas you could be able to, if you're in a position to buy a new piece of equipment, such as an appliance or a boiler, or perhaps look at the energy efficiency of your home. So we know that people are interacting with the data that's available to them from smart meters. Now, we do this survey of 10,000 energy consumers twice a year. These stats are from the autumn last year. Our next stats are probably going to come out in the next month or so. But we're seeing roughly, as those surveys go on, the favourability towards the technology remains consistently high, which is extremely encouraging. But we know they're enjoying the technology. We know that they're engaging with the information that's available to them. But what else do they want? We've heard so far around the products and services that are coming and the companies that are innovating around the agile energy use and the apps and services that are coming online. That's really encouraging because we're seeing that the consumer wants to engage more with their energy. They want to get involved more with their energy consumption and make those choices that they perhaps were unable to make in the past. So about 1.5 years ago, we did this survey called Smarter Living with 3,000 consumers across Great Britain. We're probably going to update this at some point this year just to see if attitudes have changed or if more opinions come through from the survey. And we know because the landscape is changing with regards to energy, people are aware that more opportunities are going to come from the technology that's being put into our homes by the energy suppliers. And they're realising that it is a catalyst for innovation, for new technology to come into their homes over the next couple of years. And this is just really the start of it. As you all know, smart meters create the foundation stone for so many things in going forward. And this is just really the start of the journey. I think as Richard mentioned, that even with the small example they have in Dual House, it's been a bit tricky, it's been a bit bumpy, but they got there. And you amplify that around 26 million homes, you can understand the difficulties with doing such a big national infrastructure project. But it is worth it, absolutely 100% worth it. And in the long run, it'll pay off for individually as consumers, but also as a nation as well. So when we were interviewing those people as part of that research, these are the challenges they said they had when it came to people, when they're trying to get people engaged or when they were asking what their problems were when it came to their household finances or their lives in general, and how perhaps smart data or smart energy data could help to improve that. People are quite clearly want to help the environment. That's quite a large part of the nation and of the world would like to do that. Obviously, household finances, people want to get them better under control and make better use of the money they earn. And people also want to have a lot less life admin. They just want life to be as easy and as simple as possible. The one there, caring for family members, is quite pertinent, because I don't know if, the Daily Mail is not necessarily smart meter rollout's biggest fan. It has various opinions on the rollout, not necessarily in our favour. However, on Monday, front page splash was that smart meters are going to help people with the early onset of dementia, because the monitoring that comes from responsible use of energy data can help people, or can help, say, care practitioners or GPs monitor somebody who's perhaps in the early onset of dementia, and they can see how that energy pattern and their life pattern changes if they're all of a sudden doing things at 3, 4 in the morning because they just forget it's night time, for example. So people did identify, if they're remote from a vulnerable member of family, that they worry about them, and the potential from energy data or access to energy data really excites them, because it's that non-intrusive way of keeping an eye on somebody to make sure that they're okay. Now, my father, although he's no longer with us, I'm from the Outer Hebrides originally, and he lived there all his life, and I live in Edinburgh. Now, my father was getting on in years, and had the technology been available then, I would certainly have encouraged him to allow me access to see that he's up in the morning, he's put the radio on, he's probably put the kettle on, he's probably just done other bits and pieces around the house, so I can see the spin of that spike, that he's up, he's fine, everything's okay. But it could be the other thing, that he's not. Now, it could be that he's decided to have a lie-in, and he's annoyed that I phone him to see what's wrong, or that something more sinister has happened and he's perhaps fallen, or he's actually just genuinely well. So that ability to keep an eye on somebody without necessarily looking over their shoulder really excites some people. So as we see from this, there was various scales of likability of some of the options. The good thing was, when we did this survey, age wasn't a barrier. So across all the age groups from 18 to 65 plus, they all liked some form of automation or some form of service that can come through energy data and smart meters. So it was quite interesting that you would possibly make the presumption around the older people like my father, but actually that wasn't the case at all. 2/3 of people want information on appliances working less efficiently. So disaggregation is such a really important for a lot of people to see, is their washing machine or the dishwasher or the fridge freezer or the boiler not performing as it should? And it allows them to make those choices, those investment choices in maintaining their homes. And again, just over 2/3 of people liked cheaper energy outside of peak times, which is obvious. But again, the agile systems we heard of earlier on is really playing a part of that. And we know that people are keen on the idea of time of use tariffs and shifting their energy load around the day, so that they're taking pressure off the grid, but also that they're saving money on the back of it as well, and that they're making good use of the finite resources that are available to us. But we know that all the apps and online gadgetry is fantastic, but we have to get smart meters in. And those with smart meters are already responding favourably to ideas and suggestions that could make their lives a bit easier. One thing we found in this research, that people don't want gimmicks. They don't want something they're going to get bored of in 5 minutes' time. They want something that will genuinely make a contribution to the running of their lives, to their households, to their families. They don't want something that's just looks good but actually doesn't really deliver anything, doesn't give them much substance. So obviously the darker bar are those with smart meters, and this is the favourability towards these suggestions and these ideas. So again, people with smart meters are more engaged, but the good thing is those without smart meters also like the idea. They're not that far behind. So hopefully when those adopters come into the smart meter network, it'll again drive that demand for innovation and new products and services within the energy industry. So it's really exciting that from a position where energy is really out of sight, out of mind, people only worry about it when the bill comes in, to now where they actually really want to get engaged. They know they can start making a choice on how they interact with their energy, whether it's through their in-home display, through a CAD, or whether it's through an online portal or an app on your phone. I was going home from London to Edinburgh a couple of weeks ago, And this lady who's considerably up near, probably I would say not far from my father's age. And we had just left York, and obviously Darlington's the next stop. A couple of minutes after York, she got the phone out, and she got her thermostatic control and got the thermostat on. So by the time she would get home, in 25, 30 minutes, 40 minutes maybe, the home would be warm for her. So again, those innovations are largely ageless. People can get involved with them at any age, but that technology is there. And we're seeing people are starting to get excited about it because the rollout is happening, the technology is there, and the foundation stone is there. It's now really how do we build on that to make sure that innovation is capitalized upon. And it's like any innovation in any tech sector, such as the mobile phones, etc., that people are always looking for the new thing that will make their lives a bit easier. So from that survey, which was just around bits and pieces of their lives, we asked ourselves the question, if energy was to be bundled with other things, would that make a difference for people? If it was to be bundled with your other utilities or with other products and services you would buy, would that be of interest to you? So we asked them about what we regard as lifestyle service companies, LISCOs. So about half of people we surveyed actually thought, that's a good idea. If that means there's one direct debit going into my bank account every month, I'm up for that. As long as there are cost savings from doing that. You know yourselves, if you buy your broadband, your landline, and your TV from a particular provider, you get a discount for doing that. And people said, if I lumped on my energy to that and got a discount as a result of that, I'm definitely up for that idea. So people are warm to the idea of becoming or simplifying their lives and getting rid of that life admin. And again, the favourability was higher with those who had smart meters because they could see it working. They could see how it would work in their lives and how it would make a difference to their day-to-day lifestyle and to their day-to-day finances as well. Now, about half of people overall are like this idea, which is great. It's a good start. But if we look in the 18 to 34 category, which I'm slightly just out of, we've got 2/3 of them are really keen on the idea, and that's probably not a massive surprise, but they're the consumers of the future. They're the people who are going to be buying gas and electricity when they finish their studies and move into their own homes, etc. So that interest from the younger market is really interesting because, again, they just don't want the hassle of having to sort out my phone, my broadband, my electricity, my water, etc., etc., etc. Just give me the simplest way to buy all these services. In the 55-plus category, while it was still appealing, the favourability was a bit less. And my father, his ears will be burning, but it's that to me wasn't a surprise because they just largely stick to what they know, but not necessarily against it as a whole. But then we started to ask them, if that was to be an option, where would you like to buy that kind of lifestyle service package from? And again, the blue bands on the left are the favourabilities on the interest. And yeah, the top two, almost half of people talked about the more traditional places of buying broadband and landline, etc., or from a supermarket, somewhere you go weekly to get your shopping, for example, and you like them, you trust them, and you're happy to buy more things from them, such as your energy. But again, we look at things like people even buy my service from a bank because I trust them. I trust my bank, therefore I'll buy my energy from them. But you look at Netflix on the third from the bottom, and now TV, for example, and Spotify were also mentioned. Again, this appeared quite high in the younger audiences because they trust those services. They use them day in, day out. They get a reliable service. They have no issues with them. And they said, if somebody like Spotify offered me Spotify Energy, I would buy it. So who will be their energy supplier of the future? We don't know. But the demand is there for a less traditional model of buying and selling energy amongst the consumers. So people really, really are thinking a bit slightly differently about where they get their energy from, who supplies it. But as long as it's not gimmicky, as long as it's good for the environment, as long as it's good for me and it's good for my household finances, and it just, as long as it makes my life simple, that was very much one of the key messages. And one of the other key messages that came out was around trust. They just wanted to trust where they were getting their service from and trust that they were getting the best deal as well. And that is really, really important to the consumers. We also found that the consumers get the idea of the smart future, of the smart grid, that things probably in 5, 10, 15 years' time will be completely and utterly different from the way they are today. So the consumers are really starting to get engaged with that. We sometimes get obstacles along the way when there are, negative media stories around the smart meter rollout and interoperability, for example. But we're encouraging the consumer, keep your eye on the future. That's really where the big difference will be and where the big benefit will be as well, because we'll be able to live a smarter, greener and more agile life as well through the use of smart meters and smart energy data. Thank you very much. Hope that's given you a bit of an insight.
Thanks very much, David. Okay, just as before, have we got any questions for Iagan before? Okay, there's just one down here and another one at the front. If we do the one behind you, Dave, first, and then...
Hi, my name's Nathan from Trilliant. Just a quick one. Earlier on, we were hearing that there's potential that in future we can disaggregate the data so that you can buy your energy for your lighting from one supplier and your white goods from somebody else. But the data that you're showing there is suggesting actually let's bring it even more closely together so that Sky will now sell you your energy as well. So how do you see sort of the two of those kind of different models coming together in the future?
Absolutely. I think there'll probably be different customer groups for that. I personally would prefer a simpler one, direct debit, to sort everything out, whereas you will get perhaps the more advanced, more techie person, perhaps more environmentally minded if they were buying from particular energy sources. So I think there's something for everybody, but the fact that you're able to do that is such a great thing. We're certainly finding that the consumer is getting ever so slightly more excited about energy than they ever have been. So the more products and services that come onto the market, in whichever form they are, it's like buying a car. Everybody will want something different from it. But as long as there's plenty of options out there for everybody, some people will want the simple, one-size-fits-all. Some people will want the perhaps more complex model, which suits their household model as well. But as long as it's available, that's the main thing.
Hi, thank you. That was really interesting. The thing which interests me particularly is there seems to be a lot of emphasis, as we were just talking about, simplifying life. Did people say what things they found most tiresome and would like to get rid of? What were the most important things they'd like to eliminate?
What this was regarded was life admin, and that's the things that you just have to do to keep your life going. So the simple that...
doing your tax?
Doing your household admin.
And was there a list in order of what they hated most?
It was usually, your direct debits around your utilities, having to search for new things or to do comparisons for your car insurance, your credit cards, etc. So they said the simpler those, what they regard as mundane things they got, the better. So they were saying if it was something I could just go on my phone and somebody did all that mundane stuff for me, show me what it is.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Thanks very much, Iagan.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.